Hello and welcome back to A Splash of Paint, where it's time to rejoin SIA professional artist Peter Woolley as he demonstrates how less is definitely more, especially when it comes to painting white water.
Well, earlier you saw me do this. I made a start on painting this waterfall. I established my main areas of rocks, but most importantly, I left the water completely white. So now it's time to start building the rocks up a little bit more and also fiddling with the water a little bit. I have to say that with white water, that the more detail you put on it, the less impact it's going to have. So you do have to be careful not to overwork it. It's very easy to do on a scene like this. Basically, I'm gonna carry on working with more of the grey that I used before, only a little bit richer, a little bit darker, a bit more French ultramarine, a little bit more burnt umber in there, just to darken it, richen it up. And I'm also going to drop a tiny little bit of alizarin crimson in there, just to warm it up very slightly. It's my secret weapon. It's like a spice. If I create my nice neutral grey, a little bit of alizarin crimson just warms it up in a very subtle way. I love it. So tiny bit of alizarin crimson in there, just to warm it up. Let's see where we can go with this. I've got sort of cracks and overhangs and things happening on the surface of the rock. Here's a good place, or as good a place as any, to start. Let's just put a bit of an overhang, bit of a crack in there, like that. There we go. So these rocks very often have sort of striations in them. That's a good word, I like that, striations. And I'm going to soften that off with a damp brush, just along its bottom edge, just to blend it in. So I've got a hard edge along the top and a soft edge along the bottom, just blending it into the surroundings. I think I'll have a little bit more of that. Just at the top here, nice big overhang there. I don't want to lose that this dry brush that I created up the top there, so I'm just stopping a little bit short of that. I'll just work that in like so. All right, so the main thing is to keep it loose, keep it natural looking. I did apply a little bit of greenery to the top there as well. That's also a good point at which to maybe just put some of the dark edges just to accentuate that slightly. Maybe work up a little bit into where the grass is. Just create a few blades of grass. And again, more of the softening off. Now, the other thing that's quite important to me here is, as I've already said, I want the white water to really, jump out at you. I want to give it some punch. And to do that, we have to create some good, strong contrasts there. So it's very important for the greys of the rocks to be just maybe that little bit darker, nearer the edges of the water, just to give it added impact and added contrast. All right, a little bit more, it's a bit of an overhang there, so let's work on that. Just bring that right the way down there. And again, just the second brush, just a damp brush, clean water, just softening it off. You're going to have a lot of fun with this. I mean, there's no fixed plan to this. Part of the time you have to just go for it and see what happens. Always look out for faces, though. When you're doing this, you end up with, it's very easy to end up with faces looking out at you, and you can't get rid of them. If they're there, it's there. It'll always be there. No matter what you try to do, it'll always come back to haunt you. All right, a little bit more burnt umber and French ultramarine. Just mixing it up, lots of it. A little bit of alizarin crimson in there, just to warm it up. Oh, that's, well, that'll do. There we go. Let's darken that. And again, just building up these rocks. I think I need to darken this area. There's a massive overhang there. Big crack in the rock as well. Let's just sort of bring a crack down there. And just, again, just soften that off. Just keep it nice and loose. All right, so just moving to the foreground here, just very briefly. I mean, I am mixing, I'm getting through a lot of this, I'm having to keep mixing it up. Knowing how much paint to mix for a particular job takes a little bit of experience, but you always run out. You're always constantly remixing it. You have to be prepared for that. The thing that I see people, one trap that people fall into quite often, is simply just not mixing up enough. They've got to squeeze out a tiny little bit of paint, add a bit of water to it, and they load it up with a brush, and it's gone. And then they've got to remix it up again. You know, be generous when you're squeezing out your paint. Be generous and get in there and enjoy yourself with it. All right, so again, softening off along the bottom edge, encouraging back runs, being nice and loose with it. Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm going to come back to this area here. Just see that crack there. If I just go over that again, I can accentuate. There we go. Just accentuate that. So the contours of the rocks, really, that's what it is. Without any lines in there, without any variations, it just looks flat. So every brush mark we add takes a little bit off. I like to think of this as virtual sculpting, all right? Every brush mark you apply is like taking an invisible hammer and chisel and chipping away at it, all right? And that's that's kind of the way you have to think about this. There are a little bit of chiseling down here. Just take a little bit of out of the way there. Just build that up or take it away. Actually, this can be done. Let's darken this off. Let's really go for it at the bottom end here, because we've got lots of spray and stuff. Let's just darken that off there just for the moment. I'm going to lift out some spray and I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, that's getting there now, slowly but surely. A bit more burnt umber, a bit more French ultramarine. Get in there, a little bit of alizarin crimson just to warm it up slightly. And I'm just going to do the same thing to the edge of this here. And again, I'm just going to break that up a little bit, because this is where the water really, bubbles and creates lots of spray and stuff just down the bottom end here. So it doesn't want to be too tidy. It wants to be quite untidy, in fact. A little bit extra just on this little bit of an island here. Okay, so. All right, so now, obviously, I could play all day with this, but I haven't got all day to play with this. I now want to show you how to build up the water, because we've got this big open space here. If I mix up a bit more of the ultramarine and burnt umber, but this time erring on the side of the French ultramarine, so it's more of a blue-grey. I'm going to use this to paint in some of this water. Brush strokes on the water have to explain shape and movement, all right? And we have to be very careful not to overdo it. We don't want to overwork it. But for instance, if I take some of this blue-grey, a little bit more ultramarine in that, I think. And if I just put a few brush strokes just in there, just to explain. There we go, that'll do. And then the bottom end here, maybe just lighten that slightly. There we go, just dab it to create the spray. That is all we need. You don't need to overdo this. So the more detail you put in, the less impact the water will have. Just watch out for the, very lightly, it's a bit dark. If things are a bit dark, just dab it very slightly. All right, a little bit more ultramarine in there. I don't think it's quite blue enough. And I'm going to do the same down here. At this point, the water is more horizontal, so the brush marks have to explain that. If you put in brush marks in the wrong direction, then they can just simply send out the wrong message altogether. There we go. This water bubbling up. It's largely horizontal in nature. And now look, in the foreground here, once again, the water is going to drop downwards. So at this point, just going to, a couple of brush marks, literally just to explain that away. As I say, if I put too many brush marks on, I lose the excitement of the white water. So just a couple of, there we go, a couple of brush marks there. Keeping it simple, actually, just simplifying it. Just enough to explain movements, explain the shape of the water, and that will do. I think just about the bottom edge here, the water kind of eases off a bit and sort of flowing away. But down here, just a few dabs and dobs, just to. Okay, that kind of explains it all. That's all we need here. Just one tiny little thing I want to show you. That is, there is a little bit of spray here, which I haven't really dealt with. And what's the best way of doing, of treating that? Well, I have Woolley's Wonder Brush. Perfect for the job, okay? And to do this, very simple actually. If all I need to do is just dunk it in the water, knock the drips off, and I can lift out, very carefully lift out my spray here. Keep dunking it. So dunk it, scrub it. There we go. Just create a nice, and then dab it with the brush to get that lovely spray in the water. I can even go a little bit further with that. I think just take that down there. So dunk it, scrub it, and then dab it, and just lift it out. A very subtle spray effect. I think we can also have maybe just a little bit of it just there. Just soften that off. And that's white water. That's a little waterfall. I've not put the trees in. Obviously, I would, a little bit more time, I would maybe just paint the trees in with a mixture of the blue-grey and some of the darker tones as well. Just, you know, keep it simple. The emphasis here is upon the white water. Keep it white and just use those brush marks sparingly. And also try not to be too repetitive. I mean, it's easy when you're doing this to fall into a pattern. That's white water. That's a little waterfall in North Yorkshire. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time.
Great movement and detail there, thanks Peter. It's sometimes more effective to let a few simple brushstrokes do the explaining rather than overcomplicate things and get too fussy. Time for our final break now, folks, but join us in part 4. We'll now be taking a trip to the Derbyshire countryside to show you a few simple camera tips for taking great reference photographs. And David Hyde will be on hand to demonstrate how light and shade is great for painting effective grasses. We'll see you very soon.